Hello everyone! With the 4th week of Emilie's beta upon us, her kit should now be more or less finalized with some minor changes. However, something completely unexpected happened along with the finalization of Emilie's kit. Sigewinne, a day before her banner release, actually received some kit changes. So I wanted to cover the Sigewinne updates as well as analyze her banners, along with covering what should be the final news about Emilie's kit and her overall strength as a character. But before we begin, I want to give a big thanks to the sponsor of today's video, LootBar. With all these upcoming characters coming in Hoyo's gacha games such as Genshin and Star Rail, you might find yourself running low on pool currency and need to top up for more to get your desired characters. Luckily, by using LootBar, you can save a ton of money. Just go to their website and select your desired game to see all the available top-up options, all of which are discounted. For instance, a normally $50 bundle would only cost you about $42 using LootBar, with even more discounts for first-time users. LootBar is quick, simple to use, and completely safe, as shown by the majority positive reviews of their services. Even some of the biggest creators like Dukaja and Tevat Times have been using LootBar consistently along with their community. All you have to do is put your UID and your region and just top up and you'll get your currency shortly in game. To start saving some of your money, check out LootBar. Links for them are in the description and comments below. Thank you again to LootBar, and now back to the video. So about Sigewinne. According to HomDGCat, which is where I get most of my credible pre-release information, this buff to Sigewinne is something we've never seen before. Usually if there are any last minute changes, we would know about it once we are able to pre-download the upcoming patch. For instance, we would have known about any Sigewinne updates a day before the release of patch 4.7 and Chlorian's banner. However, we are currently in the middle of patch 4.7 and this information was released a day before Sigewinne's banner. Kinda insane that we are getting news about Sigewinne changes this late. I played Genshin since it released, and the only time I vividly remember last minute changes to a character's kit before release was Kokomi when they buffed her Jellyfish ICD, which was a very significant buff. Unfortunately, this Sigewinne buff is very far from being significant. Aside from some minor text changes and clarifications, Hoyoverse decided to buff Sigewinne's aim shot and the bubble she shoots out when she's holding down her aim shot. I would love to know what is going on in Hoyo's mind to think, yes, we are going to make a last minute buff to Sigewinne's kit. Let's increase the multipliers of the part of her kit that literally no one will use in practice. If you play support, you aren't going to be using her aim shot, and if you're building Sigewinne as a DPS, you still aren't going to be using her aim shot. Sigewinne is truly making history with this update. But since we're on the topic of Sigewinne, I wanted to share my analysis on her banners. I made a community post about the banners already, but thought this would be a good time to give a quick but deeper analysis on whether the banners are good or not if you are planning to pull on them, coming from a day one free-to-play player. And of course, these thoughts will be coming from a purely meta perspective. Starting off with the Melazine of the hour, Sigewinne. If you want a more in-depth overview on Sigewinne, I highly recommend checking out my complete guide on her. For the purposes of this banner analysis, I will be focusing on Sigewinne as a healer support. For all you DPS Sigewinne players, I give you my full respect. Overall, I think Sigewinne is stronger than people give her credit for. Her main selling point is her healing, and this provided comfort is an important aspect in team building, and Sigewinne has a lot of team healing, along with a small team buff with her A1. Sigewinne's biggest downside is that by herself, she does not have enough hydro application to sustain hydro reactions for the team. Because of this, when comparing Sigewinne with Kokomi, I do think Kokomi is the more versatile pull because she has the ability to solo drive reactions by on-fielding as a catalyst. Despite this, Sigewinne can still be solid, especially when paired with Furina, her best partner. Furina supplies the hydro application needed, Sigewinne's A1 passive gives Furina about 80 to 100k damage per rotation, which is nice, and Sigewinne's healing gives a ton of easy fanfare stacks, allowing Furina to better buff the team. This double hydro core is pretty good and is a strict upgrade over Kokomi in this slot if you get Sigewinne C1. So with Furina, Sigewinne is by no means a 4-star. However, without Furina, I will admit Sigewinne is somewhat underwhelming as a hydro support. Can she still work? Yes, but it won't be nearly as strong as the Furina pairing. So meta-wise, Sigewinne can be a valuable pull if you want to pair a hydro healer with Furina, but otherwise, she's not very valuable. Speaking of Furina, she is the other limited 5-star rerunning alongside Sigewinne. This character is arguably the best limited 5-star in the game meta-wise. I could sing my praises for this character for hours, which would technically be lore accurate, but to sum up why she's so strong, Furina has 3 main things. First, she has off-field hydro application, which is amazing because hydro is an important element for most reactions in this game. Second, she has solid off-field personal damage. And third, the fanfare stacks from her burst provide a massive team-wide damage percent buff, in many ways similar to Kazuha's damage percent buff. These aspects make Furina very versatile while raising the power level of a lot of teams, creating a new team archetype, the Furina team. The one caveat to truly access Furina's strength is that your teams need to have some sort of healing because Furina drains your team's HP. This downside isn't too bad, however, since teams ideally should have some defensive utility. As a result, Furina's existence makes every healer in the game stronger and more valuable as long as they can synergize with her. Now on to the 4-stars of these banners. Noelle and Gaming are quite similar, so I'm going to discuss them together. Both are 4-star main DPSs that are actually quite strong when paired with Furina, and they both have strong Constellation 6s that you ideally want to increase their damage. Unfortunately, they are just 4-star main DPSs, thus they are only valuable pulls if you actually want to play them. Otherwise, you don't really want Noelle or Gaming on the banner as they have less value in comparison to a sub DPS or support 4-star like Fischl or Chevreuse. So while Noelle and Gaming can be strong carries, if you don't plan on playing them, they aren't too useful as there are a lot of other main DPSs such as other 5-stars. And lastly, Rosaria. Rosaria is actually quite unique as she is one of the only cryo sub DPS options that we have. Her main teams are Freeze as a sub DPS and the classic 4-star reverse melt team. Unfortunately, the cryo team options are what limits Rosaria's strength and value. Freeze is in not too good of a spot right now, with Abyss having less freezable enemies and larger HP pools, while the reverse melt team is decent, but there are plenty of other teams that perform better that you should probably invest in. Thus, Rosaria is not that useful of a 4-star. In conclusion, the best value from these character banners meta-wise is Furina, especially if you don't have her, and if you have her, then you can consider getting her constellations as well if you really want to vertically invest, such as getting her C1 and C2. Otherwise, I would say these banners are pretty skippable. As for the weapon banner, Sigewinne's signature is good if you are planning to build her as a burst DPS, gives plenty of HP and gives you the crit on burst. As a support, however, this bow just gives a lot of HP, which is fine, but you could also just not pull the weapon and just use a recurve bow to save your primos. Furina's signature is a strong weapon for Furina, with the slight caveat that you may need to use an ER Sands to fulfill her ER requirements. What makes this weapon not as valuable as a pull as other signatures is that Furina has a lot of other nice weapon options. For instance, Furina's signature may not actually be her best 5-star weapon. In teams that can utilize EM, Key of Kashna's suit on Furina can be her best 5-star weapon. In addition, Furina has great 4-star options such as Festering Desire and Favonius Sword, which provide a ton of ER so that Furina can have full uptime on her burst, which is pretty important. For the 4-star weapons on this banner, they aren't that good. All of them are pretty meh other than Favonius Codex and Favonius Lance, and even then, Favonius Codex is one of the more niche Fav weapons. So overall, unless you really want one of the signature weapons on this banner, I really wouldn't recommend this weapon banner. With the banner analysis finished, I wanted to end the video with the Emilie updates. Unfortunately, she didn't really receive any major changes. Her numbers weren't changed at all, and there were just some text updates and clarifications, which is pretty common for a 4th week beta update. The one change to Emilie's kit that I did find somewhat significant is an additional clause added to her skill turret. If Emilie's level 2 Luminous Case, which remember gets upgraded with burning enemies, doesn't collect any scent stacks for 8 seconds, it will downgrade back to level 1. This prevents a potential playstyle of just having enough burning enemies at the start to upgrade Emilie's turret once, then just ignoring burning for the rest of the time while still having a level 2 turret. Ultimately, however, this change doesn't alter her main playstyle because her ideal team should always maintain burning enemies to continually proc her A1, which is also a large portion of her damage. Thus, Emilie's turret really shouldn't be downgrading back to level 1 in a proper burning team. So with practically no major changes to Emilie's kit and it being basically finalized by this point, what does that mean for Emilie's overall strength as a character? Personally, I'm happy with her current numbers and glad that her kit wasn't massively changed. With the massive buff she received last week, she was looking to be the premier unit for burning oriented teams, and fortunately this hasn't changed. Even though she provides no team buffs whatsoever, as long as there are burning enemies, Emilie just deals a lot of damage from off-field, and just dealing a lot of off-field damage is in fact a good thing. In current teams like Burn Melt that currently use Nahida for burning, Emilie seems to just be an upgrade in team DPS. And although Emilie is not a character you pull if you want a versatile Dendro unit, the fact that she is able to specialize and perform very well in burning teams is essential if Hoyoverse wants to start expanding upon burning teams, with Natlan releasing very soon. Weak niches need to have strong characters in order for them to be brought into the meta, and Emilie with her current kit and strength is looking to do exactly that with burning oriented teams. I hope this update video was helpful to y'all. This is my first time doing some banner analysis in video form, so if you like that type of content, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave your thoughts and any questions in the comments below, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.